Hello, I'm Don Mooers, and welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. A special counsel has been selected to look into any possible collusion between the Russians and the folks running for office in the 2016 election. We know who those folks are under investigation. Mariana Cordier, a local attorney, will explain the history of special counsels and why we should be paying attention. Being a reporter in the world has become a very dangerous profession. Brian Karem, who has been a reporter, now serves as executive editor of the Sentinel, has this story and so much more. Manna Food has a local program named Farm to Food Bank that has enhanced the delivery of nutrition to deserving children in our community. Jenna Umbriac, the director of programming at Manna, will tell us all about it. Real Food for Kids Montgomery has proven that two people, and these are the two people who created the program, who care about our community, can make a difference right here in Montgomery County. Jeffrey Slavin has learned all about this program, has been involved with the program. He's going to tell us about this inspiring endeavor. Mariana Cordier, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We have you come and speak about so many interesting topics.
Yes, but this is the first time I'm going to be talking about the special counsel.
Well, so special counsel.
Yes, sir.
What makes it special and what makes it a counsel?
Well, the Deputy Attorney General of the Department of Justice appointed
Bethesda's own right.
special counsel to investigate the allegations about the Russian interference with the election, the presidential election, the possible involvement of Trump staffers in the campaign, and a few other allegations. And some are saying it's a witch hunt, and some are saying that it's a way to quiet everybody down on the issues. But the special counsel, is from the Department of Justice. He can be fired. He's budgeted by them.
So in this is a former FBI director.
Yes, he is.
Respected by both sides.
Right.
As I understand it, he's not expected to pull any punches.
No, I mean, as an attorney, I think, we're all trained, and he's a particularly experienced attorney to follow a certain type of procedure when it comes to investigations and requests for information.
But the question is, it doesn't necessarily have to stop. I mean, with where the guidelines for this investigation.
It's very blurred.
Yeah, so he could take it anywhere, couldn't he?
He could go anywhere he wants, and that's something of a fear, because you saw that with Kenneth Starr during the Bill Clinton investigation.
That was a Whitewater investigation that went on to.
It went all the way to Monica Lewinsky.
Blue dress.
Yes,
right.
And so that's a concern, because where is it going to go? And politics does drive this quite a bit. So it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. But
well, how's the Trump administration taken this? Has this been something that they've been welcomed and say, yeah, it's about time somebody got to the bottom of this Russian stuff?
That's a tricky question. You mean the administration or the president? Because they're not always in line, right?
They craft a message for him and then he rejects it. The question is, how has the president himself reacted to it?
Right.
I think.
And I think he is mistrustful, but he's also been a person who's very versed in litigation and investigations. He's settled all most of his things and cases, and he doesn't fear.
Well, except
I don't think
when he hasn't bulldozed people. I mean,
right.
with
so I
legions,
think he's going to take the same strategy as he has in his corporate life, private life, and so I don't think that he sees it in the same way as the administration does. And people who are maybe a little bit more educated about how special counsels and prosecutors, in the past have, maybe gone beyond what they were supposed to do, or didn't go far enough, according to some.
Do you think this investigation will be quick or slow?
That's a tricky question. Once you got money, lawyers like to bill, whether they're private or public. I don't think it's going to go too fast. If it goes too fast, it's going to invalidate, whether it was a legitimate investigation. If it goes too slow, you're dragging it out. So I think Mueller has enough experience to know how to time it and pace it.
So not too fast, not too slow, just about right.
Just about
Mueller
right.
has a reputation for being, like you said, a straight shooter. So.
Yeah.
My question there would be, how do the GOP and the Democrats view his appointment? Not necessarily the administration, but how does Congress and the Senate look at it?
I think he's such a respected individual on his own professionally that he does bring a bit of weight to if he does cut it short. For instance, if he says, look, this is all smoke and mirror. I mean, most of this was created from tweets and comments made by Trump. I mean, it wasn't created by actual, information. Information has evolved from there and such. And is it a criminal act? Is it just inappropriate behavior? What is it exactly?
What are the repercussions of this? Since a lot of it happened prior to the inauguration and the Trump administration getting into office, is this grounds potentially for impeachment, or
a lot of people have started talking about impeachment? I think the reality of it is I don't think he is at a point where we can realistically say that there's any chance of impeachment at the moment. And I don't in the future see it happening unless they really uncover something spectacular.
Haven't we learned through the years that it's not the action itself, it's the cover-up that gets you?
Right. And that's exactly the question: is there or isn't there? And I think that, but Mueller is so serious, and he was FBI and such. I don't think he's going to stray too much unless pressures or other things come into play that might affect.
They're already talking about Jared Kushner's role in it after the inauguration and after they took office. They're also talking about other members of the administration. So that's why I asked that question. Do you think, though, how far-ranging will it be?
Well, that's the question. Will he widen it or will it remain narrow? And it is the Department of Justice Republican thing. So my faith in that and it getting widened too much to include Kushner and all the rest is somewhat skeptical. I think it's going to stay kind of narrow. And I think this is the attempt by the Republican Party and the GOP to satisfy the public and saying, we investigated specifically on these issues. It's not that. And
let's not forget that all politics is local.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the upcoming 2018 election cycle, if folks are feeling endangered because they're protecting the president and the president has lost faith with they could be out of office.
Right.
Thank you, Tip O'Neill.
Exactly. Mariana, I hope you'll be back time and time again. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
To hear. Now we go to Brian Karem. I want to congratulate you, Sentinel Papers, sweeping awards.
We did well this year.
Congratulations. You're all dressed up.
No place to go.
It's just fascinating that you're there. The Sentinel is there in the White House press room with these briefings, and I'm waiting for your character in Saturday Night Live to come up. We got Spicy and we got all the others, and I'm waiting for the Karem one. Who's going to play you on Saturday?
I don't know. If they figure out that I'm also writing for Playboy, I shudder to think the possibilities of what will happen.
So you're reading Playboy while you're in the briefing room?
That's right. No, writing for them.
That is very tragic. Well, listen, we're not going to. We'll have that for another time in terms of the national writing and then thing. But what we're talking about today is a horrible subject, and that's those who are fighting and those who are trying to discuss and bring the truth to light, being endangered by those in politics and military and insurgents. Tell us about this.
Well, the President of the United States has emboldened those who have no fear and no care for the First Amendment. I'm a wartime consigliere. We're at war, and that's the only way to put it. I mean, the war is against free thought. The war is against the First Amendment. The war is against journalists. In Montana, you had a GOP candidate who beat a reporter down. You have the governor. This is just in the last 2 days.
Right.
Last night.
On the eve of a special election.
At the end of the election.
Right.
And then you have in Kentucky the governor of Kentucky, who is a Trump devotee, who refuses to talk to the press from Louisville or from Lexington, the larger press, will only tweet, will only put out what he wants heard, and is hiding from the press. There is a genuine fear among those in the media that we're not being allowed to do our job. It is part and parcel of a mode and a method to make you decide. It's divide and conquer. Liberal media, fake news, yes or no, and then after that.
There's a campaign to try to stifle the
There's a huge
ability
campaign, yes, for us to gather information.
So the irony, I mean, for me, my prior career was running around the world, was working around the world, and a lot of places where free press was not a part of the conversation, and the U.S. was at the forefront of ensuring that there be free press and tearing apart or being critical of countries that
not
didn't.
Anymore.
Are we finding that? I mean, isn't that
There's freer press, certainly, in other countries than the United States. and the press in the United States is by and large compromised. Our problem is 6 companies own 90% of what you see, hear, or read. So to them, liberal, conservative is a brand, much like Ford will sell you a Mustang or an SUV. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's still a Ford.
Because they're talking
there
to
for
their
money.
They're talking to their constituents, their customers.
They'll sell to whoever buy it.
Who are
I
gonna
mean,
come in.
conservatives buy liberal media because they want to gripe about it. They buy conservative media because they love it. They buy entertainment and sports because they want to see it. And that, because of that development, it's compromised us, and the current administration is taking advantage of it. And there are people who legitimately could die just trying to provide you information.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference in respect between this press secretary, whatever you call him, and the previous ones? Because the whole atmosphere seems so different when you're there.
Actually, the press secretary, Josh Earnest, I always call him Mr. Burns from Simpsons. He was very droll, very dry, and then would say, "Release the hounds." Spicer's the kind of guy that
Josh Earnest was for Obama.
Right. And Sean Spicer, the current guy, has actually done a couple of things to try and that I like. The introducing Skype into the room has kind of made it more transparent. Calling on people other than in the first row has certainly democratized the press room. And some of the other things that they've done, that he's done with his office to try and make it more transparent, I'm for it. I believe it's good. But at the same time, you've got the president and his top aides saying we're the enemy of the people. So like I said, which part of the dog do you believe? The part growling at you with the teeth, or the part wagging its tail? I'm watching the teeth.
Okay.
What's this say about American democracy? We've got about
We're
a minute
in
left,
peril.
unfortunately.
The American republic and democracy in general is in peril. The First Amendment has been severely compromised, and if you don't believe it, take a look around you. Open your eyes. It's scary. It's real. And if we don't do something to change it, it's going to be very hard
What are you
down
doing?
the line.
30 seconds. Give us the breakdown of what needs to happen now.
We need to have a shield law to protect reporters. We need reporters to get together.
Shield law is what?
A shield law protects sources and protects you from going to jail. We need to make sure that the President of the United States knows we're not going anywhere, and we need to report vetted facts. We've got to quit being our own worst enemy.
Fake news, how do we work on that?
Fake news has been around since the invention of the Republic. I mean, what do you want? I mean, H.L. Mencken said, how do you prevent it? Get better reporters.
Right. That was Thomas Jefferson putting it out about John Adams way
Yeah.
back when as well. Brian, I think the bottom line is read the Sentinel. Get a subscription to the Sentinel if you don't have one right now, and we hope you'll be back real soon.
Thanks.
We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. Jenna, welcome. I believe this is your first time on our
It is. Thank you for having me
show.
on.
Manna. We hear about Manna. We've had folks from Manna here and discussions about Manna a little bit here and there. Tell us again, what is Manna?
Yeah, Manna is the largest food assistance organization serving Montgomery County. We've been around for, it'll be 35 years this coming year. And right now we serve about 35,000 individuals in Montgomery County who are experiencing food insecurity.
What do you mean by serve these individuals?
So we have several different programs. Most people know our food distribution programs. We have what we call Food for Families, which is where we provide 60 pounds of food once every 30 days as a supplement. We also have our weekend bag program where we serve elementary school children. But we also provide
who had school lunches and weekend,
Yes.
so they're not hungry.
Yes, so they typically qualify for free and reduced meals at school, but on the weekend when they don't have access to breakfast and lunch at school, we give a supplemental amount of food for those days.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
That's okay. I was going to say we also have nutrition education programming that we serve the community with as well.
And aren't you a
Federal
dietitian?
funds?
I am a dietitian.
Right.
Do you all get federal funds?
We don't get federal funds. Actually, the majority
lucky.
of our funding comes from individual donations of residents here in the county, and we also get government grants and foundation grants.
Can you talk about how severe the hunger problem is in Montgomery County?
I can, yes, and there are people who are still surprised to hear that there
Right.
are neighbors in Montgomery County who don't know where their next meal is coming from. And in fact, by most estimates, it's around 70,000 individuals currently that are in that situation.
And you're able to help just half of those folks.
Yes, we are.
And are there other organizations that are also involved at some level trying to?
There are
fill
many,
this?
and there are nearly 200 actually food assistance organizations in the county. Many of them are very small, maybe a church helping out a local neighborhood. But what's really great about what's going on recently is that there's been a lot of efforts at the county council level, the food council level, to get a lot more collaboration amongst those entities so that we're really all working towards a concrete goal of reducing food insecurity and actually creating food security for everyone in the county.
70,000?
Correct, just over
That's
70,000.
like 8% of the population.
It's true, yes.
A
It's
little bit under
shocking.
about
It's
7.
shocking.
Yeah.
But remember, 40% of the kids in Montgomery County Public Schools are eligible for free and reduced meals. That
Yeah,
alone
we have the most children
shocking.
on free and reduced meals in Montgomery County than any county in the state
In
of
the state.
Maryland.
How, when you look at this, you're getting your food how? I mean, certainly you've got your donations, but the grocery stores, others are with donations
Yes,
as well?
we have a very
Restaurants?
robust grocery store food rescue program. It's actually part of a program we coordinate for this county called Community Food Rescue, where we help all the food assistance organizations I mentioned get food that hasn't been sold. And one way we do that is actually at farmers markets. So if we work with 4 farmers markets right now in the county, and we get the unsold produce at the end, which is really great for the families that we serve. We know that 75% of them mention that fresh food and more fresh food is the #1 way we could improve our services.
Right.
So if the federal government cuts assistance to poor, how is that going to be? You all are going to have a bigger burden, aren't you?
Yes, that's what we're expecting. And right now the budget is, as we've heard, threatening to slash many of the programs that our families rely on, including food stamps. So if that were to be cut, more families will rely on us for sure.
Now, Brian, it's a good question, but we've got less than 2 minutes, almost just a little bit over a minute, and we haven't even gotten to the farm to
Sure.
food bank. So tell us real quick about that initiative.
Yeah, the reason I wanted to mention Farm to Food Bank this week is because we're starting for the growing season. And so if you're somebody who does go to farmers markets, I would encourage you to go to the Central Farm Markets, Only Farm Market, and the Farm Market in Rockville Town Center, because those are our participating farm markets. And we also provide or get food from 4 individual farms in the county, so 4 generous farmers who give us food at very, very low cost, and we're able to provide that local, nutritious food to the families that we serve.
Another reason why it's so important to have a ag reserve in Montgomery County.
Absolutely.
With working farms that are helping us throughout the county.
Yeah, and we feel very strongly about supporting local agriculture because we know that that's really the way that we're going to create food security in the long term.
Getting this question, are we on a path to more food security, or are we in danger of increasing our insecurity?
I believe that we are on a path to more food security. Like I said, the efforts at the county level have manifest in the food security plan that just came out in January, and there is an audacious goal of reducing food insecurity by 20% over the 3 years of this plan.
We're going to work ourselves out of a job?
I hope so, but I also think
Well, the federal government will make sure you don't.
But I think we have other things to offer in terms of health and wellness were we to get to that point, yes.
Thank you very much. I hope you'll come back.
I will. Thanks for having me.
Great. Jeffrey Slavin, Mayor, Honorable Mayor.
Always good to be with you, Don.
It is having had the opportunity of living adjacent to Somerset. What a dynamic, wonderful community that you direct. And one of the things that's I think everybody's been appreciative of your efforts, Jeffrey, has been philanthropy and everything else, and being very engaged with with a number of different important organizations and initiatives. Tell us about this.
Now I've just become familiar with a new one, relatively new one, 5-year-old organization called Real Food for Kids Montgomery.
Which relates nicely with our last story, but it comes at a sunset.
And in fact, the organization has collaborated with Manna.
Great.
Because that's the only way the problems are going to be solved is through collaboration.
Right.
So about 5 years ago, 2 public school parents, including the current executive director of the organization, Lindsay Parsons, realized the poor nutrition value of the food that was being served in the public schools, particularly for the low-income kids.
Okay.
Who that's really all. Kids of affluence have different options. Low-income kids get a meal,
So we're talking about the lunches that are served at the school.
Breakfast and lunch. Yes, breakfast and lunch.
The wealthier kids, especially going to high school, they can go out and
right.
go
They
buy.
can bring it from home and
Sure.
all that, those kind of things.
Okay. So,
But so it's sort of a double thing. I mean, there are kids that want to buy the food at school and they want to have.
so tell us
good
about
options.
this unreal food that our kids are being exposed
Well,
to.
so at this event that I held at my house, a fundraiser, they had a example of the breakfast that had been served that morning, and it was orange juice, chocolate milk, candied cranberries, and some Eggo thing that's all sugar. And a nutritionist that was there told us that that meal was the equivalent of 20 packages of sugar.
Wow.
And so,
I can't imagine how difficult it is to control the class after
I
that.
can't either. I can't either. And someone said, when that was discussed, someone said, that's your achievement gap right there.
Or all the ADHD they think that they diagnosed.
That goes back to Ronald Reagan, who decided to cut back on school lunches and called ketchup a vegetable.
But before we get to Ronald Reagan, this is Montgomery.
But
this is
what's,
Montgomery County.
what's
Now,
really
orange
sad,
juice
what's
is
really
the- is
sad
the
is
fruit,
that
right?
other school system, apparently Fairfax, and I have a lot to learn about this, but apparently Fairfax is addressing this problem a lot better than Montgomery County.
But
So
what-
I was very
But
disappointed.
we've got good people. I
Right.
can't imagine that folks who are directing this in the Carver Center, MCPS, are purposefully trying to serve our kids this way. What? Any idea of how we got to this point?
I'm just starting to learn, and I hope everybody will learn.
I mean, this is a society now where the marshmallows of whatever that is, Lucky Charms, is being sold, and everybody's really excited that you don't even have to have the grains, now just marshmallows. So I don't know.
Well,
if this is
it also goes back to budgets and who does the central purchasing and how it's decided to purchase.
That's right.
I mean,
True.
I imagine that the sugary stuff is a lot less expensive than more fresh quality things. But then I think also, don't you have somewhat of a struggle with the kids? I mean, I know with my niece, if I give her the option of regular milk and chocolate milk, there's no way I can get her to drink the regular milk. She wants chocolate.
And that's often the argument used, I think, when changes are trying to be made, that we have to give the kids what they will eat, because it's you stop serving chocolate milk, start just serving white milk, and then you see in the trash a whole bunch of cartons of
That's
white
what
milk.
my grandmother there.
But
But
tell
I
us
believe
what's
that
the
you
answer?
need to start somewhere, right?
Educating
And
them,
you need
right.
to start very young. And so if kids were never used to just seeing chocolate milk on their tray every day, they saw white milk, for instance, then people get
But
we
there-
get used to it. Habits form,
Right.
over the
But
course
there are
of
also
and
ways.
educating them.
There are ways to make vegetables and fruit delicious.
Yes.
There are recipes. It takes some creativity, but it's just there's been a lot of this is the way we've always done it.
We're not going
attitude.
from Cocoa Puffs to
It's
broccoli.
also how you purchase it. I mean, if you're purchasing, like the stuff that you would put in a prison, which is what they're doing many times, that's why you have it
Well, I
taste
think
like.
it's also that they took the kitchens out of schools.
Right. There's
long time
there's a
ago.
lot of things, but that's why it's great to have an organization form an advocacy group that can be a watchdog and provide education and provide the ideas to the decision makers. And that's what's so great about this organization. Now has thousands of members, so to speak,
Right.
and they're in almost every school.
And working hard to try to get these going down.
Get
yeah.
the changes made. Right.
Yeah. So we got about 30 seconds left. Thoughts? Where do we go from here?
Well, I'm kind of sad now, related to all the discussions we've been having about the attitude of the administration at the national level about all this, and they look at it differently than we do. They look at it more like mind control, food police, and we look at it as options in education and the like. So I want to be optimistic because it's Montgomery County.
All right. So, Mayor Slavin, I hope you'll continue to be engaged.
Yes, and I
let us
want
know
all
things
of you
go.
to be.
And we look forward to the next story.
Yeah, next time.
And good luck with all your work. You all, I want to thank you. This has been a great show. Thank you for being here. I want to thank all of you in the viewing audience for joining us for this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I'm Don Mooers, inviting you to join us next week at this very same time.